everyone, and welcome into the Capital PTBO Sports Show, an MNC podcast production simulcast on your TV, Peterborough, Lindsay. You can come down and check us out at our downtown studio, the Capital PTBO at 370 George Street, or online anytime at thecapitalptbo.ca. Coming up on the show today, could Barry Trotz fix the Leafs? Will Steve Nash ever coach in the NBA again? And we'll give another example of the NFL being very pitty. All of that. Plus, we'll salute Vladimir Guerrero Jr., predict where the Petes will finish in the standings, and tell you a bit about the PTBO Sport and Social Club. Here's our Sport and Social Club. It is Mark Millian and Producer Matty. What's going on, gentlemen? How are you?
Let's go.
How are you feeling?
Great.
Good.
Reunited the three of us.
Yes.
Back in the studio. Your basement's nice, but there's nothing like the autopsy table. It's nice and cold.
I got a lot of comments about what was going on, and it was certainly noticeable if you were watching the program that we were in my basement last time. But.
Yeah.
Oh, it's nice, a whole different setup. Different microphones, different studio.
Yeah.
You're sitting on like a half futon.
That's right. It was very casual looking.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Gentlemen, our program would not be possible today without the support of Brian Goldfinger of Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. Brian dedicates his practice exclusively on behalf of accident victims, disability claimants, and their families. He is a plaintiff personal injury lawyer through and through and does not accept work on behalf of insurance companies. If you're hurt, give Brian a call, 877-730-1777. That number again is 877-730-1777. And we also could not do this without our subscribers on Patreon, patreon.com/capitalptbo. If you make a monthly donation, you can join the Wheel of Win Nothing, and you can also get your name on the blackboard.
You bet. Absolutely. So Blackboard has been just holding its own, for the last couple of weeks. The numbers beside each of those individuals, you can see up there, Matt Latour, Brad Sinclair, Maurice Cormier, Shane Sayer, Dara Scholar, Jim Murray, all represent the number of months that they have supported at that level, and we're very thankful for that. Matthew, we're getting called out here. We've had 3 wins in a row by the same guy.
By the guy that presses the button.
And the guy that made the app or whatever.
Stinks.
So here's what
the whole
I'm thinking.
thing smells
If one
bad.
of you guys wants to come over here and press the button, you can.
No, we don't pay. The hosts don't do the working man's job.
All right, then I'll let this. You just tell me when to hit it.
Hulk Hogan never won the Intercontinental. Am I right?
No, you're
see?
right.
I only know that because I got that wrong in trivia a couple weeks ago. So.
Good for you, Mark.
So right now the wheel does like a slow spin before we actually spin it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just tell me when to hit spin.
Okay, let's go here. 3, 2, 1.
It's spinning. My hands are off it.
And the winner.
Oh! Maurice Cormier.
Yeah.
There we go.
Maurice the Rocket Cormier.
Yes, the Rocket.
It was about a millimeter away from being me a month straight. But Maurice the Rocket Cormier.
Well, that's the way we play the game here. The photo finish is what we're into.
First win for Maurice, too.
Congratulations, Maurice Cormier. He was just in this past week. I missed him while I was off, but thanks for your continued support. Really appreciate it.
Nice. Good for you. Before we get into our hockey conversation here, I should point out, if anybody's out there, this is shameless plug time. The Capital PTBO, I've had to sit back and admire some of the vintage National Hockey League clothing that we have in the store now. Nordiques, Whalers, Jets, Canucks, like all the stuff that, the logos that at the time you didn't really think much of, but now that they're gone, you really look back and love them, and I think it's some of the sweetest merch going.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. That's a nice little plug for the store. So, like Hartford Whalers, we're back to pre-books on hoodies there, as well as some of the smaller sizing in the 94 Canucks. We also just signed a deal with, and this will be breaking news because no one knows this.
Oh, yeah. Get Twitter ready.
Do we have a Twitter page? Okay.
Elon Musk.
Get Elon going. We just signed a deal with Mitchell & Ness, and Mitchell & Ness is a big fish for us.
That is a big one.
We've been chasing these guys since last July, like 6 months before the store was even a thing. And we put our first order in last Friday, and we've got some retro NHL coming in that too. So again, Hartford Whalers, Minnesota North Stars, we've got that stuff. So it's a good time of year for us, and retro hockey, it's a wagon. It's beautiful.
Might be if I had to think about it, it might be the best sport when it comes to the retro looks.
I think they do the best. Them and the NBA.
Yeah, the NBA does a really good job too. Yeah.
But the NBA's is different more so that like the defunct clubs of the NBA, for some reason, they don't have the same appeal as what the National Hockey League. Like Quebec is a wag, Minnesota, even the ones from the 70s, some of the stuff that was short-lived, Golden Seals that we've got here, Kansas City Scouts, Cleveland Barons, some of the smaller, lesser lights, Atlanta Flames.
You're saying you'd rather have a Quebec Nordiques jersey than a Buffalo Braves jersey?
Oh, Bob McAdoo.
Well, you see, like the George Mikan Lakers, like Minneapolis. Yes,
Yeah, that's fair.
I would, because and a lot of it too is that's Minneapolis Lakers wasn't exactly my wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Mikan played in the 60s, 50s.
Yep. Glasses too.
And yeah. So with Quebec and those, like I can remember Montreal, Quebec playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Scott Young scores on Patrick Waugh. They're up 2-0. You're thinking, holy crap, Quebec's going to do it. And then Montreal went
and I think
beast mode.
When I think baseball, nobody changes their logo. Like the Yankees have had their logo
Very
for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
And there's just not like the same selection of defunct teams. Like Expos stuff does well.
Yeah.
They're a defunct team.
And a lot of the defunct, or not even necessarily defunct, but like the St. Louis Cardinals have gone from, Cardinals on opposite end of the bat to one Cardinal in the middle to the bat getting smaller to just having the Cardinal out front. So a lot of in the same way that's the one drawback I have on NHL Retro is the Leafs one is the same forever.
Yeah.
Like it's time. Like I know it's a hollowed franchise, 100 years. Give me all that. Let's try something right out of the gate. Like, let's try something wild out of the box.
Do you think, and I can ask you this for the WHA and the ABA, is that an unexplored market at this point? Is there a market for the Kentucky Colonels and
Absolutely.
Some of those WHA teams that didn't end up coming over?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think in the WHA, like some of their stuff, the guy who does our retired sweaters, he's got a Dave Keon Minnesota Fighting Saints. Minnesota Fighting Saints are the colors of the Atlanta Thrashers or Atlanta Flames, red and yellow. So that doesn't have the same appeal.
But if you get a Gretzky Indianapolis Racers,
forget it.
That would be off the shelves quickly.
A Mark Messier Houston Apollos. You ever seen the Apollos? It's got the old fighter jet on the front. Super tough. Messier wore 15 for the Apollos, too.
Is that right?
He did.
Did not know that. Anyways, a lot of great stuff. You got to come down here and check it out, the Capital PTBO. 370 George Street or online anytime at thecapitalptbo.ca. We'll start local today because the Petes, they're kicking off an extremely busy stretch. They had a marquee win, snapping the Ottawa 67's 9-0 start to the season on the road in Ottawa, which was extremely impressive. A couple of the standouts that I have really noticed, you knew Tucker Robertson was going to have a great year. I've been very impressed with Jack Van Volsen and sort of what he's brought to the lineup. And Michael Simpson was just recently named the Ontario Hockey League Goaltender of the Month for October. And that's actually the second straight month that he's received that honor because he also won in April of last year to end off the regular season. So if you're the Petes, it has been a really good start to the season, and the team has basically come as advertised, I think.
Yeah, their leadership group has really made a big difference. And they're not all the old guys. Like, Robertson obviously has been huge. Sean Spearing is terrific as the captain. And
J.R. Avon.
But Avon is a younger kid, that kind of taking that leadership role. So, and anytime your best player of the month is the goaltender, you're going to win some ball games. So I think like we go back to that. If we were to rewind the Pete's conversation at the beginning of the year, excuse me, these are the guys that we talked about. Those Emmett Sproul, and these are the guys that are kind of bringing this thing along. That they've got a lot of young kids that are starting to mature all at once, and they've played a heck of a hockey team in Ottawa, and it's good. It's good for Peterborough. Good for the Petes to be strong.
I like watching them fight back in that game. Down 2-0, then they come back, and I think they had a 4-2 lead. That's the sign of a good team to me, is when you can get down against a good team and come back. Ideally, you never get down in the first place, but the fact you can fight back against a team as good as Ottawa, that's what really impressed me.
Yeah.
Super impressive.
And generally, those are the characteristics of an older club.
Yeah.
Don't hit the panic button.
Don't hit the panic button. Or you're down 2 on the road, undefeated club, or whatever, 9-0 to start. That's good. It's a good early win for that Pizza Club.
Yeah, and
sure.
I'm starting to feel it a little bit. I think there was a little bit of a wait-and-see approach. I know they've done some things for the home games. Seems like the crowds are kind of building a little bit. That being said, it looks like, again, people are starting to buy in and say, wow, it was a really good start to the season. Head coach Rob Wilson made no bones about it. He said, look, we want a championship this year. We want to compete in the Eastern Conference. And, at this point, you could easily make an argument that they're, the second best team in the Eastern Conference, which is, saying something. It's been a while since we could say that.
And I think we talked about this during the Man Cup as well. Like the Pete's, you get Electric City comes in with all kinds of hype. The Lakers win their Man Cup. For the first time in a while, the Petes kind of feel like the third team. And, obviously the crowds are big there, but now that the team's good, you can definitely feel that hype starting to come up after a so-so year last year where they came in 8th.
And I think it's okay for the Petes to make the ask. Like, make the ask of your community here now. Listen, we've got a good club. Mm-hmm. There's no reason why we shouldn't have 3,500 down at the barn every night, if not better. 2,700, 2,800. That's not going to cut it for this type of club. That you don't get the benefit of this all the time. Mike Oak put together a heck of a 19-20 team, went all in with a keel. Unfortunately, we didn't get to watch the end of that. This isn't the same club. They haven't gone and bought all in, which makes it more impressive. So that you may be able to build on this for next year, too. So get down there and support Peterborough Petes.
I do want to give this a shout-out, too. We talked about Michael Simpson on the ice. Off the ice, very impressive as well. I did not know this, but he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when he was 3 years old. Mm-hmm. He wants to do all he can to spread awareness of the disease. So, as a matter of fact, the Petes announced on Wednesday that the team will host a diabetes night scheduled for November the 24th against the Sudbury Wolves. Fans can donate to the cause in person at the game or online. And on the 24th, there will be a silent auction for a game-worn Simpson jersey and a Chuck-a-Puck, with all proceeds going towards D-Camp registration fees. And what D-Camp is an overnight camp for children with diabetes. So
yeah, terrific.
He talked specifically in an interview I was able to do with him about how he looked up. He's from the London area, looked up to Max Domi. That was part of the Max Domi story because there was a time, Mark, where if word got out that you had type 1 diabetes, scouts stay away.
Absolutely.
I think Bobby Clark.
Bob Clark, yeah.
Bobby Clark was one of the trailblazers for there, too. So this is getting out in front of it and doing something cool and giving back for a cause that certainly impacts a lot of people.
Yeah,
so,
way to go.
Mike Simpson.
Great job.
Great job. And, of course, the Petes always talk about wanting to not only put on good hockey teams, but also stewards in the community. And this would be certainly a sign of that.
Absolutely.
Switching to the NHL, more conversations swirling about the job security of Sheldon Keefe after a lackluster effort on the U.S. West Coast. It was not great.
No.
Mark, you're the resident Maple Leaf expert on this panel. Would you say changing a coach now would mean anything in the locker room should they do it?
This is always going to be the currency of the realm when Barry Trotz is floating out there, right? So Trotz puts it out there that he's, somebody asks, you ready to come back to coaching? No, not yet, but I'm getting there. I'm kind of like earmarked December as when I want to come back.
Like midway through the season.
Yeah, right. No kidding. And then there was the story about how he'd really love to coach an Original Six market, and because it's always been Washington and Nashville and Islanders. And listen, just ease up, Leaf Nation, because we know that you're all piling on here. Maybe the grass is always greener on the other side because nobody talks about changing a coach when they're winning. So, you go out west. Yeah, it looks bad. You had a 3-1 lead against
Anaheim.
Against the Mighty Ducks, and you lose.
Who are the lowest scoring team in the NHL? You've got a 3-1 lead. You really give up 3 straight. They kind of got a little bit of a break on the disallowed goal. They missed on a penalty shot, all this stuff.
Yep.
And then Zegras goes and makes a heck of a play in overtime. So that loss was not great.
No, that's not great. And San Jose's was worse, if that's absolutely possible. But they followed it up with a absolute thud. What would Barry Trotz do? Does Trotz be able to convert a guy like, is Austin Matthews' game that he's not playing defense?
All right.
Is that the problem?
Let's litigate this.
Okay.
Barry Trotz, would he make sense for this particular team if we look back at the resume? Everyone who says yes will point to the success with the Washington Capitals, which is taking an offensive-minded team and teaching them enough on defense to be able to be competitive in the playoffs and then go en route to a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to hear. What you're not going to hear is that the New York Islanders parted with Barry Trotz, and one of the reasons for that was to bring in a younger guy who they felt related better to the younger core of a team, who wanted to speed things up because the league is getting faster.
Sure.
And some of these systems, a la John Tortorella, Barry Trotz, Mike Babcock, etc., maybe work in short spurts, but not in the long term.
Yeah.
And maybe they won't work because, again, you're slowing the pace. I mean, it's all defense, slowing the pace. And you go up against some of these higher skilled, fast teams. And I know traditionally speaking, and I'm a bit of a traditionalist, you'd say, well, defense wins championships. And I think in football, that's more so applicable. But in hockey, there is a sense of, hey, you need to be able to defend and play hard. And I get that. And you don't see the Edmonton Oilers, for example. You're not going to win too many 6-5, 7-6 games in the playoffs. That being said, I think there is something to that. If you look at the tea leaves from the departure with the Islanders, which was a little strange, you've got a guy who's going to come in and, much like Mike Babcock, of course, I don't know anything about the bullying or the making the lists or anything like that, but you've got somebody who is going to demand a higher level of accountability from some of the players. You've got a guy who tends to, when there's a pick'em, goes with the veteran and the older sort of part of the team. So I'm wondering if this is a match made in heaven or a match made in hell.
I don't know either.
Let's hype it
That's
up.
very Halloween-y of you.
A few days late, but
what I do always find is the older faction of the database will be like, oh, we need to get a hard-nosed guy in there to teach these kids, so they're going to side on the Barry Trotz side, and I can appreciate that. Where the people on the other side, we need Sheldon Keefe. He's player-friendly, and he's younger, and he knows a lot of these guys from the American Hockey League and all this sort of thing. Fine. I think you can get a fine mix of both, because you've had John Cooper, who gave you a fine mix of both. Jared Bednar gave you a fine mix of both.
Yeah, he's a great example.
But
I think they needed Jared Bednar, actually.
So, who probably don't grow on trees.
Yeah.
The old guard, the Quenneville, he'll never be back, but that older guard maybe is starting to play its way out. But I think there has to be a medium where you can have accountability and still kind of stroke Matthews' ego a bit to say, listen, you're still the best goal scorer in the game. I can appreciate the speed and the fast part too as a second to this, but when it comes to the postseason, it doesn't matter. You start getting banged around, your speed will start to drop. McDavid is the second coming, and he didn't win.
Well,
and I mean, this kid put everything he possibly could in the net.
I still think having a physical presence is very important, particularly in the playoffs.
Yes.
And what we saw in Anaheim the other night, and I know this stat's a little bit strange how it gets clocked, but the Leafs were only credited with 9 hits in an overtime game.
Sure.
They played 62, 63 minutes, and they only had 9 hits as a team. That reeks of something that is easy to play against, and that's been one of the critiques. Now, Barry Trotz comes in. He changes that, but now you're thinking, does Austin Matthews want to hitch his wagon to a guy who mainly is a defense-first coach on a long-term contract? So that has to factor in, too, is who's going to be more lucrative for him to want to play for?
Yeah.
And I think ultimately it would be a younger guy. We know he had clashes with Babcock.
Yeah.
We know he didn't like that. Yes, I acknowledge there's extenuating circumstances we weren't aware of at the time. But also, I just think some of these players can be what I refer to as emotionally immature a little bit. So bringing in somebody like Barry Trotz, maybe it's a short-term fix. Maybe you cash out and say, who cares? We want to win it this year and then forget about the rest. Okay, cool. But I don't see it as being a long-term fix. I think it is interesting that Barry Trotz, now you see the rumors on social media that maybe he was looking at a condo in Toronto.
Apparently he's rented one. Yeah.
He's rented a condo, so it's other. But he was on the, I want to say the Cam and Strick podcast, which you referenced, where he specifically went out of his way to say, yeah, it'd be nice to be in an original 6 city because he's been with the Islanders, the Capitals, the Predators.
Yeah, where you've got 3 or 4 beat reporters.
Yeah.
Here you've got 3 or 4 beat reporters waiting outside of the room that you're in.
Outside your car.
Yeah.
Matty, weigh in here. Where are we at?
I mean, if I'm the Leafs, I hire Barry Trotz. You mentioned Washington. Like, Austin Matthews is today's Alexander Ovechkin.
Yep.
And there was questions about whether or not Ovechkin would be happy under Barry Trotz. Ask Alex Ovechkin how heavy his ring finger is now. Well, he's pretty happy about it.
And he still scored goals.
And
it's not like he regressed to 30 goals.
Well, he had 33 his first year at Trotz.
Ah, damn.
I know. Sorry.
That must be his worst year ever.
His second year with Trotz. 33 is down there, yeah. He had a 32 in 2011, but he also had 50 and 49 with Barry Trotz. So he scored a lot with him still. And yeah, like, I think, like, for me, with there's so many parallels between this Leafs team and Washington. Like, Marner's Backstrom. I think he's better than Backstrom.
For sure.
But Ovechkin and, like, Matthews is the biggest comparison I've seen.
TJ Oshie.
Oh.
Yeah, Oshie could be Nylander. Who cares? Like, come on. There's a lot there. Nobody's Holtby, but maybe if Samsonov picks it up. But yeah, there's so many parallels. Like, this is something Barry Trotz has seen before. He knows how to make a team like this win without shaking everything up.
Yeah.
If I'm the Leafs, I'm all in on it. I've also just not been a huge Sheldon Keefe guy from the start. But I get that he was kind of handpicked by Dubas and whatnot.
Keefe, to me, just seems like he's like that nice cousin, like that nice uncle when you're...
He's not
a kid.
The uncle that's giving you beer when you're like 12.
No, he'll give you like a talking to, but when you're tormenting your sister, he's also not going to put his hands on you.
No,
he's just going to be like, okay, enough.
He'll be did you think about your sister's feelings?
Yeah, and I'm not sure how that washes today.
One final National League topic for us today, and that is the Ottawa Senators for sale. A couple of names have surfaced as potential buyers for the Ottawa Senators. So I'll read this verbatim. Bruce Garriock, who's the beat reporter there. So sources say Jeffrey and Michael Kimmel, who used to own a minority piece of the Pittsburgh Penguins before they sold to Fenway Sports Group last year, have already expressed an interest in purchasing the Senators and being part of the LeBreton Flats project. Easy for me to say. The Toronto-based brothers are on the board of the Harlow Financial Group. The company is invested in real estate, wealth management, and the entertainment industry. Also, another name being speculated around is Toronto billionaire Michael Andlauer, who's the owner of the OHL's Hamilton Bulldogs and also has a 20% stake in the Montreal Canadiens. There has always been speculation that he wants controlling interest of his own NHL team. He's also highly respected by Gary Bettman and Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley, which matters. And it's a transport and logistics company is how he got his. And billionaire Andre Desmarais of Montreal-based Power Corp, who had a link with another bidding group for LeBreton Flats in 2016, may also dip his toe in the water. So at the very least, you've got Canadians, because there is a sense of, in my mind, now they've said that the Sens are going to stay in Ottawa.
Yeah.
One of the things that the new group coming in is going to do is, again, going to lobby hard to get that downtown arena. Yeah. Which was one of the mistakes that I think was made when they built the Canadian Tire Center out in Canada.
Absolutely.
There was a time where that was the thinking, was let's grab a big piece of property where it's a little bit cheaper, let's build a big arena and a huge parking lot and cool. And now more than ever, and we have this debate in Peterborough all the time, that the more modern sports complex is going into the downtown area.
Yeah, right.
It's just more accessible, more easy, more economic spin-off to everything around it.
The Senators screwed up. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, it didn't really happen. Completely.
But they were like, if you go back and look at that timeline, it's almost on the cusp of when that started to change about where's the sports entertainment dollar outside of the rink going. And if people wanted to make it an event, they didn't want to make it, destination, spend all your money out here and then straight home, fellas. That's not, you know what I was surprised about is a couple of things, but $700 million.
Yeah, $655 they were valued that last year. The Penguins sold for $900 million, and the Predators are set to go for $775.
Like at $655, I feel like this is a deal.
That's a steal. I'd buy them.
I think this is going to be 10 years from now. If the Sens can lob a cup on the back end of this, I think it'll be a steal.
They're a hockey team in Canada's capital. That seems like it should be fail-proof.
It should be, but
it's just not, because
is it?
Ottawa's weird because
government town, a lot of transplants,
not even that.
Even when they were in the playoffs in the conference final, and me and my former co-host Colin Teskey used to argue all the time, they weren't selling out their playoff games because there was an issue with the Phoenix pay system or something.
Yes, that's right.
Some goofy thing where federal employees weren't getting their money on time, so that was the big thing.
I think the issue is my dad grew up in Ottawa, and I can tell you he's not a Senators fan.
The horn.
He's not a Senators fan because anybody born before 1990 is either a Habs fan or a Leafs fan, and that's right in the middle. So, obviously the fan base is getting younger.
Right, you're starting to age out of that, where now you have a Sens fan that doesn't know any different. You know, they're starting to come of age. That 20-year-old Sens fan that has never experienced it. Well, what are they, 92? I don't know.
20-year-old would be 2002.
Yeah, so that 20-year-old fan who was 10.
I know.
You know, just starting to experience Battle of Ontarios and these sorts of things and remembers it with now is 10 years out from having kids that are going to the games. Mm-hmm. I think $655, I think this thing could be a winner.
I think so too. At that price, even $700, like you look at the Predators going for $775. I think the Senators should be worth more than the Predators.
I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but I did peg Ottawa as the one Canadian team that I always thought might move. I always thought it might move. I think the NHL, at least at this point, has identified, because it's the Canadian capital, that it is an important franchise for them. But of all the ones, say we're doing Record Machine, which we're going to do in a bit.
Record Machine!
If you had to look and say which one of these Canadian teams would move, well, it's not going to be Toronto. It's not going to be Montreal. Not going to be Edmonton or Calgary.
Oh, see,
right?
Calgary.
You think Calgary?
I get that Ken King vibe, like on TV, like, please, today.
The roof is going to fall in on the Saddle Dome any minute.
Right. Like, I know that there was a nuclear heat on Phoenix.
I guess Winnipeg, too.
And they're, like, that Instagram, that entire diatribe of, like, here's the visitors' dressing room. And it looked like something that we'd fired up here at the Northcrest.
Mullet Arena.
Calgary's no closer. Like, they're like neck and neck with Phoenix for creating arena disasters.
Wow.
Could you see Vancouver moving, like, more than Calgary?
It's a funny fan base, Vancouver.
It's so funny. And not happy right now.
No, for sure.
No, not at all.
Which I kind of like. I can respect that. Like, you know what? We've had enough. You've been rebuilding since the Sedins.
I'm just a Bruce Boudreau, like, apologist. I love the guy.
Bruce.
I think it's time for Brucey to...
I know.
Yeah, he might have to hang... You want to talk about the old guard?
No
He's
kidding.
the old guard.
He's wearing the feathered hat.
A lot of fun stuff to talk about in the National Hockey League. The World Series is on, and the one thing that the Phillies are thankful for is the DH in the National League. Mm-hmm. Bryce Harper, of course, has been banged up all season long. It is likely that his season might have ended in May had there not been an option for a DH, which I fought against and I still hate. But in this case, it worked out because I'm cheering for the Phillies because I hate the Astros. And you're seeing Bryce Harper become the guy.
The Phillies, like tuning into the World Series and watching them win games is like, that's good for me. That's good for my like spirit animal, because as much as I want the Astros to have to be held, I want them accountable. I want them held to the carpet like you couldn't do it. And I know that this World Series won't like wash away the sins of 15. I know that. But you won a World Series. This year you didn't. You got beat by the number 6. You got beat by a wild card team that just barely played their way in the last week of the year. And you got beat. I like it. Give me that. I hope I hope they lose, and I hope they lose very well.
It would be another thing when we talked about, you know, the weird, kooky MLB format. This is actually the biggest spread of wins since 1906.
Yes.
You have, a 19 win difference, 106 to 87.
That's right.
Which is crazy. I want to know why Justin Verlander gets a bit of a pass for being absolutely terrible in the World Series. No one talks about it. No one ever talks about it.
Nolan Ryan's got better numbers than Verlander in the World Series.
Listen,
like, check that.
I just don't understand. My favorite Major League Baseball player of all time is Greg Maddux. And that's all I would hear year after year. Wow, he doesn't win big games. Blah, blah, blah. I look at him. He had 5 starts in the World Series. He was 2-3, granted, with a 2.03 ERA. That's bad beats.
Sure.
Like, he literally was losing like 2-1 games against Jimmy Key, 96.
Yes.
And then I look at Justin Verlander, who hasn't had a single win. I know we don't value them the same, but doesn't have a single win in 8 starts. And officially, of any pitcher who has 30 innings pitched in the World Series, has the highest ERA, 6.07.
Yeah.
Could not hold on to a 5-0 lead.
Yes.
Talk about a game I turned off because I thought, wow, Verlander's going and it's 5-0. And then all of a sudden I'm getting messages.
Ouch.
Turn that one back on. He gets a bit of a pass for like a very... definitely underwhelming World Series resume and just an overall, and I hate to say it, Scherzer's kind of the same way.
I know.
Where these guys, I know Kershaw's the one that takes all the heat, but Kershaw, I think statistically, has been better than Verlander in the World Series. So I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and look, 'Cause I think sometimes we just get, and I think there's some of us who look at Verlander, look at Scherzer, those types of pitchers, and say, wow, we really like those guys because they're the workhorses.
Yeah.
They're what we're used to. They're the 7-inning, I'm going to go get you 8 strikeouts and walk 4 and throw 120 pitches. I'm just saying Justin Verlander gets a bit of a pass. That's it.
I'm with you on this. In the same way, like we talked about before the show started, about how Harper could be like the next poster boy for the National League. I think we so badly want that old veteran horse pitcher in that World Series or in the postseason that you're willing to almost de facto. I mean, we treat Clayton Kershaw like Sandy Koufax. Like, just ease up a bit here. David Price, Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, we so badly, Garrett Cole to a certain degree, we so badly either want it to be a Yankee or we want it to be like that old workhorse in the barn type thing that he's going to come out, he's going to be game 1 starter. I mean, of course it's going to be him. Who else would it be? And he gets lit up. We want that so badly. And we in every postseason, Major League Baseball creates this narrative of, it's Schilling. Like, it's always one of these old dudes. Get out of here with
Randy
that.
coming out of the pen.
Yeah, get out of here with that.
Hey, Producer Matty, have you ever heard of Mattress Mac?
No.
Staying with
Where
the
are we
World
going
Series.
This guy's my spirit animal. Watch. I've said that twice in the same show, which is, I know that's a problem, but
Prolific Texas gambler with a knack for attention getting bets stands to win nearly $75 million if the Astros win the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Mattress Mac Mackingvale of Houston has wagered a total of $10 million with numerous sports books on an Astros victory.
He has a Wikipedia page?
Oh, he's the man.
This guy's the man.
His bets include a $3 million wager back in May with Caesars Sportsbook at 10-1 odds. It would pay him $30 million, which Brad Harwood, a spokesperson for the sportsbook, said would be the largest single payout legal sports bet in U.S. history. And going back to your opinion on the atmosphere that is Philadelphia right now, a lot of people getting on Mattress Mac, who is sitting like diamond side, just ready to go, just getting absolutely shredded.
Just getting crushed.
I just like that we're all shredding this guy, and he's worth $300 million.
So
he doesn't care.
You know what the Mattress Mac part is, right? Like, he has the mattress store, which we talked about, but you know how he makes the money? It's brilliant marketing. So he'll lob a 10-1, $3 million on the Phillies to win, or on Houston to win. In this case, it's Houston. But then he'll lob it out like anybody that bought your mattresses at Mattress World or whatever show he owns. Whoever, if you bought them within the last 60 days and the Astros win the World Series, your pay, like your purchase is free. And then he takes the gambling money and he pays it out. So it's like super brilliant. The guy sells a couple of thousand of bedroom suites, and then he puts down this massive bet in the World Series. And if it pays, I mean, the dude is in.
Bet $4.5 million on the Bengals to win the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
Imagine he misses twice.
Was this a missed opportunity for Mel Lastman with Lastman's Bad Boy? He could have been this guy.
No, Mel's dead. So
well, Mel is no longer with us, but I guess he went the political route.
Yeah, he had a hard enough time explaining the
affair.
The affair, the Olympics. Remember what he said about being in the burning water? Like, Mel, come on, man.
Melvin, let's go. Emails.
Oh, there we go.
Let's get to the National Football League.
You've got mail.
First-time emailer, Aiden says, what team do you guys think would give the Bills the biggest trouble out of the NFC? So he's already assuming the Bills are going to make it to the Super Bowl. We know that there's some very good teams in the AFC. It's a lot better of a conference. I think that's easy to say. Bills, I think, undisputedly right now would be the favorites to make it. But Kansas City's going to be good. Miami just went out and loaded up the offense a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you'd have to say the Philadelphia Eagles, right? They would be the one team. They're undefeated.
Yep.
I kind of think the Cowboys are actually going to be better than the Eagles
I was
in
gonna
the end.
I think the Cowboys are a sneaky pick here. The Cowboys are winning games, and they're not close. Like,
Bills
they're like
are still
two-score games every
Bills
week.
are still 5.5-point favorites in the Super Bowl against either of those teams.
Either of those teams, yeah. I think maybe if you wanted to throw a wild card wrench into it, I think the 49ers, catch the water.
It.
Yeah, I think they come.
That's the one I was going to.
I think that gets better as that season keeps going. As McCaffrey feels like more of a weapon inside that offense.
You pair him with Deebo Samuel.
Right. You pair him with Deebo Samuel. And like Jimmy is just, he's a conductor. He's Alex Smith, right? Like he's just going to be able just to keep the ball moving. He's not going to be flashy enough to throw you 5 TDs and 400 yards. That's not going to happen. But outside of those three, and I'm with you. Like I know it's 7-0. I'm still not a big, huge believer in Philadelphia, though I like the story. Jalen Hurts has been a wagon too. I don't see anybody. I'd put a reserve bet in on Tom. Tom will figure it out. Like preseason football happens in September now. So he'll eventually roll it together. I think the whole taking Wednesdays off now, and now he's a free agent, and all these other things like
Divorced.
Like that's what I mean.
Got
Divorced.
more time on his hands.
Sure. More time on his hands for a guy that is a weapon winning wise.
No love for the Seahawks, like highest scoring team in the NFC.
No.
6-1,
Geno
or 5-3. I can't read.
Yeah, they're not 6. 5-3. Geno and the bubblegum murderer there. Pete.
Nice story.
Nice story.
The one thing I will say, so I'll disagree with you on the Bucs. I think they're done. I think the Packers are done, and I think the Rams are done. So it's going to be someone new. It's going to be someone new who's going to creep in there. And the 49ers, to me, make the most sense because they are tested. I mean, they went to the Super Bowl a few years ago. They went to the AFC or the NFC title game last year.
Yep.
Christian McCaffrey last week, had a touchdown passing, receiving, and running.
Yeah.
Deebo Samuel wasn't even in the game.
Yeah.
I like what they do on defense, except for that Kansas City game, which Kansas City, gives fits to a lot of teams. They sort of figured something out. Other than that, the Niners have had one of the best defenses too.
Yeah.
They're a team that I like, man. Tough place to play if teams have to go out to the West Coast to play in the playoffs.
That's the thing that Buffalo's got in the hole, right? Is the Orchard Park is not exactly a walk in the park.
You mentioned your Rams. I got to ask, what's going on there? 118 points scored this year. No other team's lower than 140.
Is that right?
Yeah, they're bad. And they're 3-4. That's terrifying.
The offensive line is really bad.
Well, that's it. To me, an offensive line is something that you take for granted until you don't have one.
For sure.
And then you watch Stafford totally under siege.
Yeah.
They've never been able to figure out the running back position since Gurley left. Akers left midseason. They're trying to talk him into coming back. They went for McCaffrey and missed.
Yeah.
Didn't have any picks. Didn't really upgrade at wide receiver. They're hoping Van Jefferson comes in and makes a splash, but it's still kind of Cooper Kupp and the others. Allen Robinson showing a little bit of life. That being said, I think Sean McVay has just been, he was out-coached by Kyle Shanahan. I've seen his game plans just go up in smoke time and time again. And on the defensive side of the ball, they don't have a pass rusher. They lose Von Miller.
Yeah.
Floyd hasn't been the same coming off the edge. Aaron Donald is still having a good season, but doesn't have a lot of help.
Right. He's the only option, so you can double him.
Jalen Ramsey is great. Teams can just avoid him.
That's right. You can avoid him. And you don't have to throw the ball to him.
You're seeing positions that they needed to be better that are just not good. They're not good in the safety spot. They get burned once, twice a game for deep balls.
Yeah.
And they can't. And one of the things of Raheem Morris is his refusal to send pressure. Some teams like to. He says, no, we're going to get there with 4. Well, he ain't getting there with 4.
No.
And instead, Jimmy G's got all day back there.
Yeah.
And he's just picking teams apart. So, they do need to have a full rethink. I think as a fan, I look at it, Mark, and I say, they went all in. They won a Super Bowl. And now talent is a little bit thin because they only have late round draft picks.
This may be one of those teams, and I just wrote that down. The Rams may be one of those teams that mortgaged everything to get the Super Bowl, and now the cupboard's bare now.
Well, right? McVay came out the other day and said that because he was rumored as getting the Amazon spot, right?
Yeah.
And good looking young guy, all this. I could see him easily going over to television.
Sure.
And he sort of made a comment that his coaching career is kind of tied to the current core. So when Stafford, Kupp, Donald, when they're gone, and Donald's already flirted with, what else do I need to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
30,
right, 30.
Whatever.
He's got 100 sacks.
I'm a first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the greatest players ever.
Yeah.
McVay says he'll be done with that. So
yeah,
yeah. Little Rams radio if you want it, man.
Yeah, there you go.
Serve it right up for you.
I regret bringing it up. We need one of those buttons. That's enough Rams.
That's enough Rams talk. What about Steve Nash? Will he ever coach in the NBA again? That comes from Larry.
Oh, the Nets are a mess. They're a flaming hot mess.
terrible. Even without the anti-Semitic stuff, it was just not working. Pieces weren't coming together the way that they should. And Steve Nash was given what I refer to as a poison chalice. So I don't think it was ever going to work. It was a tough gig for a first-time coach.
I don't think he was ever the coach.
I mean, that's the thing, too. And you've got your marquee player says he wants to be traded, and then you go out and you trade, Harden. Simmons comes in. He's scared to take a layup. I'm just saying I'm happy that he's out of that situation. And actually, I don't think he's going to coach again. I
could see him coaching like Team Canada. Although Nick Nurse
Lord
is
knows
doing
he
that
didn't
now.
play for them.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no
Yeah,
kidding.
true.
But no. Like, I honestly think he would have such a sour from this experience. And what other team's going to go and say, yeah, we want Steve Nash, a guy who has the only coaching on his resume was the Nets, and they were a bit of a circus. Kind of guilty by association, right? I don't think he's going to coach again.
Andy Pilateri, who is a good friend of the store, he's Andy Pilateri Wines on Instagram. Follow him. He is an above average invested time in Canada basketball. He was in this week, and we talked about Steve Nash today. Actually, he was in the store, and for a guy that's won 45, 46 ball games, I think back-to-back years for a team that Kyrie didn't play, and it was always a circus. There was always something going there with Nash. The idea that Nash not coaching again, I think actually would be a disservice to some of these basketball teams. That Nash would be good in a market that doesn't have a big three, or certainly doesn't have the prison roles that the Nets have.
Charlotte Hornets,
Sacramento Kings.
Yes, absolutely. He could. Watch what Mike Brown does in Sacramento. Right? This is a guy that's been at the apex with Steph and LeBron at different times in his career. He's also been on some of the worst NBA teams alive. So this is a guy that's been at both ends of the spectrum. Nash, not necessarily, but a back-to-back MVPs don't grow on trees. This guy's a Hall of Famer. This guy is he's a point guard. He's got the mind he's the catcher, what makes a good coach. Nash will be back. You just can't have him in a primary market unless it's Toronto.
I think this is Gretzky. I think he gets the one run and then gone. Doesn't want to bother. Do it again. Be an ambassador somewhere. Do your soccer thing.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
And your Terry Fox doc.
Yeah.
Put that on the doc
box.
Quick rewind back to the Ottawa Senators conversation.
Oh.
I saw this tweeted as we were just talking about the LA Rams. Apparently, Ryan Reynolds wants to buy the Senators, too.
Wow.
I can get behind that.
Celebrities?
Reynolds.
Well, he owns the soccer team. We know that.
Yep.
And he's kind of turned them around. Let's turn around the Senators.
So we figured, what the hell? Him and Blake Lively at games?
Just
you used to have Fisher and Underwood. Now you got Reynolds and Lively?
That's a pretty good upgrade.
Just quickly on Reynolds, though, he's quickly moving to Michael Jackson territory in terms of his celebrity status, yes or no?
He's crazy
He's
famous.
like A++.
Right, that's what I mean. He's going to be he's at the apex where Michael was.
He's not like Shaq where you see him everywhere you look, but he's close.
Right. There's just a cachet about having the word Reynolds. There's something there with that guy.
Record machine. Let's do it. Record machine.
Record machine.
It's in my contract that I don't record that.
Anyone who's new to the program, this is one of the favorite segments we do. I list 3 very much unbreakable records, and we decide 1 through 3 which is the most likely to fall. And this time we're going to focus on individual awards. Get a load of this. Here's your choices. 9 Hart trophies for Wayne Gretzky, 6 MVPs for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or 7 MVPs in baseball for Barry Bonds. Whoo.
Ooh, gee.
Wow. And we're just talking, either league MVP for
who's
baseball?
eclipsing those? Yeah, either league in baseball.
So it can be AL.
It can be American League, National League.
Man. I'm going to say most likely to be broken, weirdly enough, is the 9 Hart trophies.
So McDavid gets...
I feel like McDavid could just rattle off 6.
Easily.
Yeah,
if he gets the one last year...
He's still 25 years old.
If he gets the one last year, he's already at 3. You got to think he's leading the league in scoring. Probably a front runner this year.
Yeah.
Edmonton's good. I could easily see him with 5 or 6.
Second, I'll say 7 MVPs in baseball just because Shohei Ohtani exists. And I think we're going to see more guys like him. And then 6 MVPs for Kareem. I'm going to... As weird as that is, because it's the smallest number, I think it's the most unbreakable just because MVP fatigue in the NBA seems to be so much more prevalent than the other leagues.
Well, the case for that one is that we've seen Michael Jordan and we've seen LeBron James.
LeBron should have had 10.
And Michael should have probably had 10.
Yeah.
And they just don't get past a certain point, to your point. Fatigue. 3 for Bird, 3 for Johnson.
Yeah.
5, I think, for Jordan and Chamberlain. I know Russell had 3 in a row. He might have won 4 overall, but to win 6 MVP awards, pretty impressive for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and a long career.
I see, only from that standpoint, I see baseball as being the easiest. Sorry, basketball being the easiest. I think somebody can get to 6. I think 6 would be, at some point, will become run-of-the-mill. I don't think LeBron is a generational talent. The NBA writers is still it was an old-timer sort of whimsy, like in the same way baseball has changed. The basketball is just as old. So I think you can get 9 for Gretz. Like, Gretz got all his before he was 31.
Yeah.
That's the craziest part about it.
8 consecutive and then a Mercier and then 9.
Right. So, like to get it in his 31st year, Connor's 25 years old.
Yep.
1?
He'll be 2.
2. No, 2. That's right.
He'll be 26 in January.
26. So for him to he could have a run of 5 and get to 7 and be 30 years old. I think it's entirely possible. The baseball one is where it falls off for me. Bonds at 7. There's so many other factors because anybody who's a positional player can win in baseball. You can still get the reliever that can still be an MVP player. You can get the starter that's still an MVP player. And until that, I realize that you can do that in hockey too with Vezina, but I mean, you're on like super hollowed ground then. How many MVPs does Hasek win in relation to Vezinas?
2
right?
to 6, yeah.
2 to 6. And we're talking about a guy who statistically may be one of the greatest goaltenders of all time. So I think Kareem at 1 is the easy. Gretz at 2. Barry's at 3.
Here's my thing for Barry. So we know Barry, chemically enhanced for sure, did have 3 MVPs before the alleged steroid use began.
Yeah.
Baseball is, by all accounts, 150 years old. They didn't really start having formal MVPs until kind of in the 20s.
Yeah,
and then there was a rule you couldn't win an MVP more than once. So like Babe Ruth only has 1 MVP. So there's a bunch of that playing against it. That being said, there's never been anybody over 3 except for Barry Bonds.
That's right.
Mansell, Mays. Like Mays only had 2. Willie Mays only had 2. Mantle's had 3. DiMaggio's had 3. Barra's had 3. Mike Schmidt's had 3. There's a whole bunch of. It seems like 3 is a crazy number. So I just cannot see someone. And unlike before in baseball, not to get too nerdy here, but the invention of a stat like WAR, it's no longer as subjective to writers. There's actually a concrete, hey, this statistic says who's the best. Doesn't mean you always go with it, but it'll always give you a little bit of a barometer. Whereas if you're going to get to 7, I feel like you need to sneak in a couple that maybe you didn't get.
Sure.
Like maybe I didn't have a great year, but I'm going to get a reputation vote.
Yeah.
The basketball one for me, I think you raised it with voter fatigue. There's going to be that guard who says like, okay, we're not letting Jokic win 4 because LeBron won 4.
Right.
We're not letting him win 5 because Jordan won 5. By the time you even get to 6, you've probably been blocked by like 80% of the writers who refuse to acknowledge you as a peer of LeBron James or Michael Jordan. I kind of agree that Gretzky, even though it's the biggest number, I feel like it's the one. I feel like it's the one. I feel like maybe McDavid, you got Bedard coming in, whatever. I feel like McDavid wins this year, and he at least gets to 5 or 6, which would tie him with Eddie Shore. Eddie Shore, who also had 6. And I want to say Gordie Howe also had 6 too. So there was a lot in there. But, I think maybe that's the one that I could see somebody that we know right now getting to at least that level.
My thing with baseball, like we talk about Shohei Ohtani, how when he had that year last year, there was no doubt he was going to win it and nobody could do anything about it. We're going to get somebody like that's like 21 eventually. And they're just going to rattle them off.
Ooh.
Interesting discussion. That is how we do the record machine.
Record machine.
Want to go to the Mano y Mano showdown?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Where's my Greed the Series music with Chuck Woolery? There you go.
Yes.
All right, gentlemen. I teased this off the top about the World Series, Matt. Thankfully for you, it's not actually to do with the World Series.
Oh, I've been worried all show.
Mano a Mano Showdown, 2,500 plus NHL penalty minutes.
Oh,
Let's give some love to the
I don't even know if I can
enforcers
do
of the
this
world.
one.
Oh my gosh.
This is Mark's gonna sweep this.
22
Pims.
names. 22 names have eclipsed 2,500 penalty minutes. It'll probably be a while before we see anybody do that again, if ever, just based on the numbers now.
You get
Yeah.
100 in a season, and you're sent down to the AHL.
Yeah, these guys used to get 300
A week.
easily.
Okay.
All right.
Who wants to lead off here? You want me? I'm a left-hander, like Southpaw. So
I can go first because I know I'm not going to have nearly as many as you. That's the
Oh, he's
thing.
already
I'm-
he's
I've-
lulling
I've-
you.
I've already rolled over.
Muhammad Ali, rope-a-dope.
yeah.
Take your swing.
Listen, Sonny,
Then we're
listen.
going to end
Go
up
ahead.
with like Norris trophies again.
Yeah.
Oh, you watch your mouth. Okay, go ahead on Pims.
Dale Hunter.
Yes. Number 2.
Yeah, Dave Tiger Williams a 1.
Yes, 39.71.
That was my next guess.
Okay, I'll go to the bottom end of the ladder.
Zdeno Chara. It's been around so long. Really? I got to look up Chara now.
I don't think so. He's not on my list.
Okay, let's go to the bottom of the ladder. 2,500 minutes. Ken Danico.
He's the absolute bottom of the ladder.
Okay.
Chara's got just over 2,000.
Kenny.
Ken Danico. That's
2,500 minutes and what are he? 28 goals.
Yeah.
Like career, something ridiculous.
not a lot for Kenny.
Scott Stevens.
Yeah. Is he on here? Yeah. 27.85. One. By the way, side note, one of only 2 Hall of Famers to have 2,500. There's only 2. And Stevens is definitely one of them.
Stevens is definitely one of them. The other Hall of Famer. I'm gonna have to think about that. Oh, my guy from you guys made fun of him in my my all-time
here
team,
we
Gary Roberts.
Gary.
Guaranteed he's on there.
That's an all-timer.
25.60.
Gary Roberts.
Gare.
I'm just thinking of guys who were like around in the 80s that were just around forever. Chris Chelios.
There's your second Hall of Famer. 28.91.
Wow.
12th all-time for Chelly.
Who are the top 2? Williams and Hunter?
Hunter, yeah.
Yeah. Third on that list. I'll go on the bottom still. Give me Gino Ojic.
Yes.
It's not a real name.
25.67. Well, we've talked about the Canucks merchandise a little bit earlier. He was on the 94
He was
team.
on the 94 Canucks team, and you knew it too.
Pavel Bure's bodyguard.
I wasn't even alive.
Gino.
I'm sorry,
What a
guys.
beauty.
Chris Neal.
Oh, I think
Yeah. 25.22.
Oh, barely.
Yeah,
Number
he's
20.
just there.
It's like 5 fights away from not being in there.
Kelvington, Saskatchewan native Joseph Koser.
Yes, 25.19.
Yes.
One of my favorite Red Wings of all time.
Yes.
Marty McSorley.
Of course. Number
Absolutely.
4 all
Yeah,
time.
he's high there.
33.81.
Pat Verbeek,
The little ball of hate, 29.05.
Mm-hmm.
He's not in the Hall of Fame?
which is hard to imagine. 500 goals. One of the few guys that's 500 goals, 2,000 PIMs.
And not in the Hall. He must be in the Hall. This has to be
That
fake.
has to be wrong.
Yeah,
Who's
that
this?
has to be wrong.
Pat Verbeek.
Pat Verbeek. Has to be.
Okay, while I'm looking,
I don't
up
want him
at
on
the
the-
same time.
He's on the board.
Yeah.
I'm on Pat Verbeek's Wikipedia page.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't look like he's not.
All of a sudden, he's going to come out with
He's
Norway.
not in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and I'm gonna come up
Tragic.
with some third liner now. Todd Bertuzzi? No, not even close. Eh?
No, not even.
Bert. How about David Manson?
Yeah.
Who
Good
is
pick.
that?
Dave Manson got hit in the throat one time with a slap shot, and it like affected his vocal cords.
What did Bertuzzi have? 1,500. Not even close.
Dave Manson for sure.
Chicago a lot for Dave Manson.
Chris Nyland?
Knuckles.
Knuckles. Is he on here? Did he play? Yeah, number 9, 3,043. Knuckles Nyland, 20 goal scorer. Made the All-Star team.
Former Peterborough Pete. Ty Domi.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
What's Domi for?
Third.
Third.
I
35-15.
should have had that one. Yeah.
Most fights in NHL history.
Ty.
Now I'm just like out of it. Darcy Tucker. That's yeah. Yeah, I didn't think so.
There's a couple other guys I think that are laying around here. Matt Barnaby.
Yep.
Yeah.
2562.
Rob Ray.
Robbie Ray, absolutely. 3207.
32.
I know so many of these names.
Jeepers. Yeah, you see, you had to play long enough, and you had to be 2,500 minutes. Though is a lot.
I'm offended you haven't named one of them.
Oh,
Like the all-time heavyweight champion of the world.
I know who this is. I should have had them.
Dave Semenko.
No, that's even offensive that you said that.
Don't say it. Bob Probert.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Come
I was going with
on.
Semenko. Come on.
I don't know if I'm buying that.
Sammy. Yeah, Bob Probert, obviously.
My guy Donald Brashear. He would have been the most modern
Donald
guy on here.
Brashear. Tim Hunter.
Yep.
Yeah, Tim Hunter for sure.
Willie Plett, who I don't know.
Oh, Willie Plett. Yeah, the old Atlanta Flames.
You guys got the real bottom half. Rick Tocchet.
Oh, yeah.
Craig Berube.
Yeah, that would round out the list. Good for you guys.
Berube was tough.
Yeah, he was. Super tough.
He still looks tough when you watch St. Louis Blues games.
Oh,
Like, you catch
yeah.
him on the bench, he's not smiling. He's still mad about, like, a lot of things.
Jeez. Best of the rest here, gentlemen. Hank Aaron's chase of Babe Ruth's home run record being made into a feature film. Do we like that idea?
Depending on who plays who.
Not sold on the name of the movie, 7:15. Just kind of seems lazy to me. It is being
Don't
produced
you love
by
the movie 62?
61.
61?
Yeah, I don't know. It's the same vibe. Mike Tolan, who produced The Last Dance, he's going to be a part of that.
Okay.
Matt, for you, WWE is nailing down media rights all over the world, and the Pro Wrestling Corporation just announced a new deal with Sub-Saharan Africa. Does that make sense from
Why
business standpoint?
Probably. They got a guy now. He's like 7'3". He's from Nigeria, and he's a huge hit over there.
Okay.
You got to capitalize on it.
Last but not least here, a British man ends up naked on a beach after a mega 30th birthday bender, tells the cops has no recollection of the last 2 days. I think we've seen that play out on the big screen.
Yeah. No
David
Feels like the
Beckham's had a
real
rough
life
weekend.
Jeepers.
Feels like a little hangover sequel there, doesn't it? Another one. Good job.
Can you even, like, is that a legal defense in any sort of way? I mean, he's clearly not married,
Can't be.
right? Because what is he going to tell his wife? Oh, no, babe, I don't know what happened.
Say he got spiked.
Yeah, get out of here.
Like literally go into the court and show them the movie The Hangover and be like, this is what happened.
Yeah.
Couldn't do anything
There's
about
some
it.
monks and
Everybody, this has been another episode of the Capital PTBO Sports Show, an MNC podcast production simulcast on your TV, Peterborough, Lindsay. You can always come down and check us out at the downtown studio, the Capital PTBO at 370 George Street, or online anytime at thecapitalptbo.ca. For Mark Million and producer Matty, I'm your host, Jordan Mercier. We will talk again next week.